We're going to call this meeting to order. Stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this beautiful day that you have given us, for its blessings, its opportunities, and its challenges. May we appreciate and use each day to its fullest. I pray we will strive to do our best for our city and the citizens we serve. As we gather here today for our meeting, let us be ever mindful of our duty and obligations and respect one another and the varying positions we may each embrace. Help us to remain sincere and humble, and remember to reach out to help others who are in need. While we are public servants, may we remain mindful that first we serve you. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Probably if you can call the roll, please.
Heidinger?
Here.
Thomas? Here. Thompson? Reed?
Here.
Penny?
Here. All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming in today and joining us. This morning, we're going to conduct an agenda meeting immediately followed by an administrative workshop. And please be aware that today's agenda meeting is to review items for the regular commission meeting scheduled for July 3rd at 9 a.m. as our schedule differs from the norm during the summer months. Right now, we're going to review the items. Looks like we got two on here. So the first one under new business is resolution number 2023-05. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of South Pasadena, Florida, certifying the proposed millage rate to the county property appraiser for fiscal year 2023-2024. Everybody's okay, I'm sure, with keeping that on the agenda. Our second one is a motion that's going to authorize myself as mayor to execute the master services agreement with Forerunner Industries, Inc. for floodplain management platform services. And that sounds like we've done. All right, then the agenda is set, and we will adjourn and meet downstairs.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning.
We're going to call the administrative workshop to order and ask Carly to do a roll call.
Heidinger?
Here.
Thomas?
Here.
Thompson? Reed?
Here.
Penny?
Here. The only item on our agenda today is the budget discussion.
Excuse me, if I may, I've got something I'd like to bring up, and it pertains to the budget. And this goes back several weeks. That's something I've been thinking about since the first budget came out, particularly for our first responders, and they're 4% this year, with everybody else getting 6%. We are still in an inflationary period, and we're having a difficult time recruiting and retaining, and I would like to see us somehow level that out on a one-time thing. I've had a conversation with Jim, and he came up with, I thought it was a brilliant idea that doesn't put us behind the ball moving forward. Doesn't cost us any more in pension, but it does help level the field for our guys that are, they are the ones that go to the burning buildings for us, and we count on to save us. I'd like to just see. So I would defer to Jim to let him explain it and how it impacts us, and I hope I can get your all support to do this for them.
Well, and the other part of that is, we're struggling with recruiting.
Well, that's what you said,
And
recruitment and retention.
that's
Yeah.
hopefully should be able to help us.
I want to send the word that this city's always got the backs of our first responders.
Right.
you know?
Just out of consideration, though, do we kind of have an idea of how often the first responders have got a better increase than our regular employees as in comparison? Because I know that's happened a number of times where their package has been a lot better than what our normal employees have gotten. Not that I'm against firefighters getting anything, and I understand the situation we're in now and the cost of living, and it's just, out of fairness, just an idea of, how often does this kind of thing happen? And not that I won't support this, but it's just something to always think about when we're moving forward with these, because everybody's our employee, union or not. So what's your idea there, Jim?
Well, basically Tom asked what the cost of the extra 2% would be, and I told him that cost would be about $42,680, but that's wages and benefits, and a big part of that is pension. What I suggested is a $2,000 one-time payment to each of the firefighters, sort of an incentive, and because it's a one-time payment, it's not pensionable. Pension's like 34% of wages, so when you looked at the $40,000 cost, the firefighters would be getting about $14,000 or some ridiculous small amount on that. So I just suggested it, either, we could pay it one time or two times, but basically $2,000 per firefighter. There's 18 firefighters, so that's $36,000 plus Social Security we'd have to pay on that. In workers' comp, the total cost of the city was about $40,554 is what I came up with.
Instead of 42?
Yeah, or we could bump it to $2,100 and it would basically come to the 42, but.
How will this help recruiting? This is going to what we already have, right? How would this help recruiting?
I just think when we're in
Well,
a situation.
I think it's a great idea.
Well,
I'm
I'm just saying, when you're sitting there trying to recruit, and the chief and the DC are sitting there looking at the lieutenants, I said, by the way, the city stepped up in an inflationary period above and beyond their call of what the contract called for. And like I said, I'm not looking, Jim's idea, like I said, was brilliant. I was thinking 2%. The way he explained it, with the bonus, it therefore does not count as salary, so therefore it's not like compounding that 2% on top of next year's 4. It just goes, the next year's 4 would be based off of this year's 4.
So, and would the bonus go towards any new hires within the upcoming year?
That's what I was asking.
Well, and I was just gonna say, we might have to do a resolution and, just define what we
Hired
want.
within fiscal
Because we
year.
know we're gonna hire 2 new
Like that.
firefighters, so we just, anybody hired within 1 year period.
We would also likely have to do like an MOU with the union to accept this, even though it's a positive thing, and you would assume that they would take it. Anything that differs from their contract, we would do like an MOU for that they would accept, so we could set those policies.
So we're only saving $1,000, but then the compounding, is that what you're saying? If we don't go with the extra 2%?
Well, if you go with the 2%, number one, 1%, I multiplied 21,340 times 2. 14 is salary, so about 28,000 would go towards salaries if you gave them 2%. The other portion would go to pension. If you give them the 2%, we have to adjust the 2024 pay schedule, and then they get a 4% raise the next year, so you're compounding that salary, so you're growing it, whereas a one-time payment is given compensation to
One-time
kind of
payment
bring them up to
basically
that 6%.
You're still living up to what we and the union agreed to, but we're giving them something because we know of the circumstances right now.
Yeah, and this accomplishes that, because the intent when I came up with this thought was to help them out now, not help them out in perpetuity. And that's how Jim explained it, so that's again where it gets to the one time, it avoids that compounding of it.
With this one-time payout, and considering that if the union accepts it, and we decide this goes for any new hires, could this be used as a hiring bonus? Like I said,
Everyone's giving out bonuses now to hire people. Nurses, they get huge bonuses just to sign on for 1 year. I've seen it.
So I guess that we'd have to look into it,
That-
find out for
That's the
sure.
thing, you know, if we're gonna use it.
I
as
mean,
a-
we're giving it to them automatically as like a bonus,
Yeah.
but can we use any for these new hires?
What
How
I
we
would
word
make the
motion.
recommendation is that you kind of make the policy decision now. Our labor and employment attorneys need to look at it to make sure that we're doing it legally sufficiently, so.
Okay.
And already mentioned that to Carly, that we had to make sure this goes through Susan Spradley to make sure we're doing this in a legally sufficient manner.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm assuming everybody here sounds like they're in agreement. Go with the one-time bonus, but let's make it for new hires, and new hires, it would be a signing bonus for the $2,000. But if that can't be done, then we need to think about just increasing bringing them up to the 6%, like everybody else. Is that correct? We
If
think
what-
this
what
is
can't be done.
the one-time payout.
I mean, I think the
Oh,
one
it's-
could be
it-
done, it's
yeah,
just
it
how we
can be
set it
done.
up.
Yeah.
Just making sure we set it up
Yeah.
properly.
Oh,
in
okay.
the
Yeah,
end.
it can be done.
Okay, all right. Everybody's good with that then?
comment?
We're all in consensus? All right.
Any comment from our DC? I would like to hear his thought.
As you know, right now, it's.
You have to come up.
Excuse me. It's been
Sorry.
extremely challenging trying to find new employees. We have had, through Davis, through other venues too, trying to put it out there that we are hiring. The problem is, there's very few people out there that we can bring on board. So I think this was the first I've heard of, the bonus or anything, so. I'm, of course, very supportive of it. Anything we could do that would be more long-lasting and long-standing, such as potentially bringing it up another 2% and keeping it there, and making it more towards the, pensionable as well, would be something that we could show on paper, an increase in salary, an increase in benefit as well to potential new hires. So that would be my comment on that. So.
That would be my recommendation, but
Well, it's kind of, with the problems that the ambulance services are having to keeping their employees and people quitting and everything else going on there, it's moving more and more that our guys are gonna have to be delivering people to the hospitals and things like that, instead of the ambulance coming in and picking them up. I think
they're
things
doing
are
it
gonna
now,
change.
aren't they, more and more? I've read an article about the county.
Correct.
They're taking more people to the hospital, and that's tying up a truck.
Which is true. What they've done here in the county is it's called 3M Medical, which basically means when the system becomes overtaxed and overwhelmed, the fire department does transport. We're on the routine now. So that is already happening.
I know.
Because I think eventually the ambulance service is in a lot of trouble, I think, just from things I've read and seen. So I think we should reconsider this, and as DC said, and let's make this a 2% increase. But can we still think about some type of a signing bonus for new people coming in? to
Well,
try to
remember
attract
what we're
people?
doing, according to the contract, if I have that correct, that we're paying for their schooling, which could be like $5,500 to $8,500.
Correct, yes.
So, I mean, that's a big chunk right there, because if they have to pay for that themselves.
So most fire departments do that anyway?
No, they pay for it themselves.
A lot of other departments are now doing that. Either they're paying for fire academy or they're paying for paramedic programs.
Oh, they are.
Yes. And not to mention, there are other departments out there, such as like the city of Dunedin, which is giving a $5,000 signing bonus just for coming on board. So.
Yeah,
some
we're
of the-
in a competitive environment right now.
That's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Are they?
Right, we've got to keep our fire department staffed.
Yeah.
Well, and we can't really afford to lose anybody either. At this point, we're down 2. And that's creating overtime, and it's probably starting to burn them out a little bit, is it? I mean, overtime is great in the beginning,
Yeah, it is always that.
but then it gets a little old after a while.
So let's reconsider that one-time bonus. Let's give them the 2% increase, bring them up to 6, like everybody else. Let it be part of their pension. I know it's going to roll over next year and make next year a little higher. But I also think we need to really consider some type of a signing bonus that we can put in place, at least for the next fiscal year, and then we can reconsider it again the next year.
If we have a signing bonus, does the union have to go along with that? Do they?
Yeah, do they have to sign
I
off
think they
MOU?
do.
Well, so in talking with them, my understanding is that anything that is done prior to their employment and them joining as a dues paying member, the union is not. Now, for example,
They're
we
not
let
worried
them
about
know
that,
that we were
then.
setting up a program to be able to fund
Okay.
tuition for new hires, and they said, well, they're supportive of that, but it's also not something that they would necessarily be a part, because it's a term of the person's employment that they agree to before becoming a union member. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, it's
Yeah,
something we're
sure.
doing with an
Yeah,
applicant,
they're not a
Prior
union
to.
member
and
yet,
it's,
so it
and they're
doesn't
not,
affect
so
the
they're not an
union.
employee yet, and they're not a union member yet.
How many
Right, that's-
firefighters
So-
are we looking for right now?
802.
We're looking for two.
Just two. So, what do we feel is their recommendation? Do you think we should go follow suit and go like a $5,000 signing bonus or 3,000 or? What do
Do
you
we
guys
have the
think?
money, Jim?
It's for the
Depends on
next,
what you adopt for.
it's for
the
the next,
okay, yeah.
yeah, it's for the next
You
budget.
have the money
so,
this year,
yeah.
I'm thinking of the future, and again, when we do union negotiations, we're looking at salaries to surrounding cities. And so I haven't been able to study this, obviously, in the past few days, but when we did our negotiations, South Pasadena was good compared to other smaller cities. Yeah, you can't, if you compare to, say, Pete and Clearwater, no, so, and they're your competition, obviously.
Ellis Park, any of the big ones.
Comparatively, it looks good, but it's not working. Because we're not able to find people that's willing to join, right?
Well, everyone's having that
there's-
problem. Let me
they're not-
clarify.
There's no
Even the big
paramedics.
ones, everyone's having that problem.
Right, yeah. it's-
Everybody.
I think there was probably a lot of burnout after the COVID, and people are, that's a tough job to begin with, so.
So what do you think, Tom? 5?
5 seems reasonable. I mean, Dunedin's doing 5. I don't think when you're looking to recruit and retain, you can't really compare the size of the department to the other sizes. You gotta just say, we want to get the best, and so we gotta step up and pay.
And you think 5, if you, would make sense?
That's up to you all.
Yeah.
Honestly,
So you really don't have any sense of, would that bring more people?
I'm sure anything that helps.
But we want to get good people, that's your
Has
point.
it worked for Dunedin?
It has worked
Okay.
for Dunedin.
Yeah.
There you go.
They probably got some of
So
it.
6.
All right, so it sounds like we're in agreement. We're gonna go with a $5,000 signing bonus for new hires for fiscal year 2024.
So that would
We can
also,
rediscuss this again for 25.
Yeah.
so
when
that
comes
wouldn't
up.
happen right now then, right?
It would happen when the new budget goes into effect. Yes.
So,
So if we hire somebody
You're
this
looking to hire
summer,
somebody,
we're
as
advertising
you
again
can.
tomorrow.
You know,
the
I wonder-
advertisements were
Should we-
updated with the
so
tuition
Can
reimbursement.
we update it to begin immediately and do a budget amendment?
we have to, yeah.
do you think that it would, I wonder if that would attract more paramedics as well, instead of, because if we were to give a $5,000 bonus and we're able to get a medic, we wouldn't need to spend the money to send them to school.
Well, could you do
And
a
that's
sign-
really what we want, ultimately.
Come on,
a signing bonus.
You better sit down.
Bonus for a paramedic, say, somebody who could come on as a paramedic and a little bit lesser for the EMT type. do
Maybe.
Something like that, and that might bring the paramedics.
That's a
you know.
good point.
One of the things that we've implemented here recently is to potentially, if you're already working for a fire department now and are a firefighter paramedic, that they would do away with the NTN requirement, the National Testing Network requirement, so we could bring someone on board from another department almost immediately. So the more we could potentially look more attractive, I said, I would think that they would hopefully be able to entice people maybe to jump ship and maybe come to our department too. I'm not trying to poach people, but right now we got to do what we got to do as far as trying to get somebody on board.
Because when you think about too, in the overtime, that's an expense to us as well as the burnout.
What's your recommendation?
Well, Jim had not a bad idea. I mean, maybe we want to go a little higher to get a medic.
How about 5 and
And-
75? I mean, if you get firefighter for 5, that's great, but if you get a medic for an additional 25, you're $3,000 ahead of the game on sending them to school.
So we're doing like 7,500 for the paramedic?
Do you think that's going to,
Because we don't have to send them to school.
Correct.
do you think that's going to how can I say this? Will bring the kind of medics that we may or may not want?
We would have to determine that during the interview.
Yeah,
the interview
okay.
process.
It'd be very hard to say.
Yeah, I know. I can't really say that, but,
Well, you'd also have to think about limitations. If you do give them that bonus, how long do they have to guarantee they're gonna stay here and work?
Well, as of right now, I think just as we have gone to the bringing someone on board, paying for paramedic school, the requirement would be, once you become county certified paramedic, that you give us at least 3 years. And that's the way the contract was
That
written.
could work in this instance
would
also.
that be another contract?
If that's an existing contract that you have, and you're just utilizing that with an additional signing bonus, I'm okay with that, but I would imagine that you've worked that through with our Labor and Employment Council to ensure that we're in line with the union requirements as well as any, provisions related to public employment.
I'm assuming this will have to be added to the July 3rd agenda. Budget
I can
amendment
get it
and,
done. The budget amendment,
resolution.
probably not, no. But we can do that after the fact. You can fix the
the money and
budget.
then
You can,
All right.
If there's consensus today to move the money, we can come back with a budget amendment to find.
All right, so what I'm hearing is we'll do the 6% increase for our current firefighters.
2% to 6%,
Right.
yeah?
And we will, for all new hires at 5,000, all paramedics at 7,500, signing bonus, to begin immediately.
You should be smiling.
He wants to quit and come back.
That
If it
will,
will help me get a new employee,
That will help.
I'm all for it.
Yes,
help.
absolutely.
And I hope Chief Nixon's on board with it.
That's why
think
you
he-
should be here. No.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have a problem with it. He's struggling too to get somebody.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to alleviate the overtime right now, it's going around.
And I think that kind of balances a little bit, doesn't it, Jim? I mean, we're paying overtime and,
I would think so. Overtime has been real high when I was looking at actual
well, and you got vacations and everything over the summer. It's a tough time.
well, how many people you expect to retire in the next 2 or 3 years or go out?
Besides you.
I'm not expecting anyone to retire anytime soon, so
Because you'll have to be replaced.
working on it. Yeah. Well,
all right, so 6%.
5,075 begins immediately.
Good, I think that's
6%
gonna
starts
help a
fiscal
lot.
year.
I really do.
You gotta keep those boys.
Or girls.
And of course, the signing bonus, we need to have an end date at the end of fiscal year 2024. And if we still need to reinstate it, we can reinstate it to that point for 25.
I mean, I think we can you can address that at every hiring process if you want to. Like, it can apply to these 2 openings.
Depends on, yeah, because you don't know,
And
it
that's-
might get better.
Yeah, I mean, we could hire 2,
Might get
and
worse.
then the next time it opens, we can readdress it with you all. Do you want to offer it again? You don't have to decide now. We're going to offer it for every opening for
It's not a
for those
lifetime.
for the fire department. We may
once
need
it's
to
a-
consider for other openings with the city as well.
Well, I was
if-
gonna say, are there
if
any,
things
is there
happen
any of the
anywhere
departments that are struggling right now with getting somebody to come in?
I mean, everyone is struggling.
Terry
We
raised
we
her
don't
hand
have any
back there.
openings right now.
A year to get it.
Yeah, it's just,
It took Sean months to get
Yeah.
yeah.
guys.
Well, let's make sure it's in place for
Yeah.
when they need it, just to come talk to us and we can add it in as a budget amendment or whatever. And
And you can change the ad once it's approved, right?
well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like immediately. Great. Quick, before you get your shoulder done.
That's tomorrow.
I know. Better hurry up. Better hurry up. Oh, my God.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all for hearing me out on that and going along with it. I
Good
appreciate
job.
it.
Now that changes everything, right, Jim?
I thought I was going on vacation. I don't know.
Oh, boy.
We'll have to change the schedule for the firefighters contract and then rework the next year's also, so, okay.
Hey, Carly, you said something about a memo of understanding?
Yeah, I'll
Who
work
does
with-
that, you?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get it done.
All right.
Okay.
Now, where do you want to start, Jim?
Okay, y'all have a handout that has that.
Yep.
I think we'll talk about millage first because that's the most important subject. I was gonna just, I had a couple housekeeping items here. At the last budget workshop, when we were doing finance and administration, we looked at the computer budget, and I forgot to include 2 new items that we're gonna put in place during 2024. In order for us to get cyber liability insurance, we have to go to multi-factor authentication, okay, and that's gonna cost us about $1,410. It's gonna cost $250 per month per individual, and everybody in the city is gonna have to have a little token to log onto the computer. But that's gonna cost us about an additional $1,400. In addition, Velocity, there's a program called Barracuda. They were charging us $500 a year. That cost has gone up to $1,620 a year. So I need to add another
Software people really get you.
$1,120. And so basically, I need to add $2,530 to my computer budget. That'd bring it up to $37,130. If I can get your permission.
What was that amount, Jim?
$37,130 is what the new computer.
What was it before?
I think it was 34.6.
Okay.
So I did I upgraded my schedules, but I haven't done a new one for y'all yet.
So this is, when you said with the token thing this is just to get into the computer. With anything else, it's not like Microsoft Authenticator or where you just get an app on your phone and sign in, or that they just send you a text with a code to put in type thing. This is something you'll have to do
Yeah, they're gonna send you.
before it even starts.
Code you have to
Right.
put in to get into it.
And that's every
Just to log
employee
in.
has to use that?
Yeah, we discussed it. Carly can give you her input on it. You could.
It's an extra step to get in.
We talked about, cell phones, but not employees have cell phones, so I don't think we want to do an intermix, but we might down the line be able to look at that, So we decided to go with the tokens for
We
now.
basically don't have a choice.
Yeah, no, I've got.
We basically don't have a choice.
And every time I log on the computer, I get a push to my phone to confirm it's really me.
We thought about doing that. That was IT's first suggestion, was to do it on cell phones, but I wasn't comfortable having our employees having to put an
Their
app on their personal phones, and the city doesn't provide cell phones to all positions, so this was a way to kind of get around that, so, is doing the fobs. So,
But that doesn't count us, we don't need that.
yes, it
Oh,
will.
it does.
You gotta get into your tablet.
Oh, that's true?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'm
wait,
all-
we'll have a physical device, is that what you're saying? Instead of okay.
Uh-oh. A physical device?
Tape it
So
to
if
the
you
computer.
lose it,
It's a little like keychain.
don't lose it. Is that what you're
Put it on a keychain or something. Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can work toward almost a hybrid of if you have a city cell phone or if you want on your cell phone, then that's fine and everybody else can do fobs. But for right now, we just need it in place quickly. So everybody's getting a fob for right now, and then we'll see what we can do going forward.
Okay. Don't lose it.
Make it so.
So let it be written.
I'll try to be responsible. I can't even find my glasses. So,
Put it on your car keychain.
I don't have a
It's a
car.
fob, right?
Okay, in addition to that, I did add to our capital budget for 2024, $43,000 for the playground equipment that Sean talked about. He said the total cost would be 93. You were gonna look into not doing the floor thing, but I upped it to the total.
Just in case.
93, just in case, if we find out we're gonna do less,
Yeah, he's looking at some options, so.
we can bring it down, but I did bump that up in the capital budget. And I did add the to the 5-year plan in 2027 for the Otis 211 control card for the elevator, so that was done, so. Getting to the handout here, this basically, the cover sheet I had already given y'all, and basically, just to run through real quick, the current year taxable values are $923,419,491. It's an increase of about $108 million, or a 13.25% increase in values for the city. I go through the gyrations of coming up with a rollback rate, the rollback rate under this scenario. And by the way, they will send us up revised numbers July 1. I mean, it's always a day late and a dollar short. We might get lucky and get it to, Friday or something, but don't expect much of a change on it, but these numbers could fluctuate slightly. But the rollback rate is 4.4446 mils. So that's supposed to keep the aggregate taxes the same as last year, with the exception of any new construction. And the new construction that they're showing is actually high this year. It's $12.5 million. So it's usually $1 million or so. So that's an awful big number this year. I'm wondering if that might change coming in. The majority millage vote rate was 4.5708, and the 2/3 vote millage rate is 5.0275. And I was talking to Carly before the meeting. Basically, what these things basically mean is any rate between rollback and the majority vote rate, any rate in that range requires a majority vote to the commission, or 3 out of 5. Any rate between that majority vote rate and the 2/3 vote rate actually requires a 2/3 vote, or 4 out of 5 commission members to adopt. And then anything over that 2/3 vote rate would require unanimous vote of the commission. So what I'm recommending is keeping the millage the same as the existing 4.965. And if you did that, that's about an 11.71% increase over rollback. So when you go and put your trim advertisement out, you would advertise a tax increase and basically show that 11.71% increase. So if you go to this second sheet, the only reason this Exhibit J4, this is just a running schedule I've been running for 20 years. It kind of shows my budgeted revenues, my budgeted expenditures, and on the ones that have actually come in, what the actuals ended up being. We have the actuals for 2022 are my book actuals. They're not the audited numbers. We don't have those yet. They shouldn't change by much. 2023, obviously, up at the top, actual we don't have. So those are Jim's best guess of where I think we're going to end up. And I kind of look at my experience. The thing I get out of this whole sheet is our expenditures typically come in around 97% of what we budget right now. At one time, as you go down the list into older years, you see it was more like 95, but we're actually getting tighter on our budget, I think, on the expenditure side. So we're spending about 97.25% of our budget as we're budgeting. So I basically just used that information. I gave you Exhibit J1 and Exhibit J2. And the first one, J1, is just doing it as we budget, like we're gonna spend 100% of our expenditures. And there weren't really a lot of scenarios I wanted to give you. I mean, you obviously have the statutory rates. I really feel like keeping the millage the same keeps us in the position we want to be. Down the road, you know, I think it's going to help with the new fire station. I think down the road, we're going to probably need to help with the debt service. So I think keeping it the same is a prudent thing to do. The only thing I did on here is if you felt like you had to decrease it, I kind of looked at that second schedule, that J2, and I adjust my expenditures down to 97% and see what the effect would be where it says appropriated fund balance. Those bracketed numbers are all surpluses. And what I did is I plugged the number to see where I would have to be to get the same 921,000 surplus that we're getting under our existing rate. And I came up with a millage of 4.7098. So if we actually came in at 97%, where historically we've been coming in, that's the millage rate it would take to keep that surplus the same. So I put that down as an option for you all to consider. But other than that, so that's what it basically does. The second J2 schedule, if you will, kind of says that's where I think I'll really be, okay, versus what I have budgeted. And on that second schedule, I'm still budgeting just 100% of what I budget on revenue. According to the history sheet, we've been coming in a little bit higher, 102, 103%. But I'm not confident enough when I do the revenue budgets. I try to get those, I try to be conservative on those. I try to do what I think is really going to happen. So obviously, if we did better on the revenue, your surpluses would go up.
So the 11.71% increase is based on the home values going up.
What they're doing, home values actually went up 13%. What they actually do on that trim ad is they compare the rollback rate to your new rate. So that's the increase over rollback rate.
Okay.
If you just took the rate divided by the rollback -1, you're gonna get that 11.71%. And the difference is, I believe that new construction that's in the number is throwing, otherwise it would be 13%.
Okay, that
Otherwise
makes
it
sense.
would be valued. So, as just a point of interest, when I was looking at my revenues, overall, revenues are increasing $960,710. And of that 960, 522,840 is the ad valorem, it's the property taxes, and that's due to that 13% value increase. In addition to that, our other revenues have gone up 437,000 based on my projections. It's a crystal ball. And all in all, it's about an 11% increase over what I budgeted in the previous year. So I'm afraid to get too crazy with it because there's talk of recession, and I'm afraid to see it reverse. But we kind of budgeted flat is what we kind of did, hoping that the economy stays good. So, but I'm still recommending the current rate, millage rate of 4.965. Wanted to give you a couple other options. I guess there are a couple, the exhibits in the back, the J3, we kind of said, well, what's the increase? Well, if we keep the millage the same, there's no increase. Any increases would come due to an increase in value of your home. If you have homestead, you got the 3% max. So on that exhibit J3, the second box up on the bottom, I tried to see what, based on the values, what I had to do is take the original, like if you had a $250,000 home, and I bumped it 3% and recalculated the tax. I mean, you're talking $29 increase in taxes. Yeah, because you're capped at that 3%. My understanding from just looking real quick at the internet is that there's a 10% cap for non-homestead, which would be multifamily commercial. So I put that down at the bottom to show, the difference, the change, the increases. So on a $250,000 commercial, we go $124.13. So that's kind of what that first page is. And because I'm not suggesting changing the rate, what I did, the third box up, is I said, okay, well, what is that compared to the rollback, which is supposed to be here, keeping it the same as last year. You can see what the differences are, but they're pretty minor when you look at it overall, so.
Okay.
Looks good. This is good.
Arguable. Okay.
Comments, any questions, any?
Your recommendation of the city and where we're at is probably going to be best for the city.
Do we have to say yes or no right now?
We have to know what to put in.
I need a number,
resolution.
yeah.
Consensus
Okay.
would be the
Yeah,
4
that's what we're
point,
looking for, is the consensus, so that we can add that to.
it'd be the 4.95 that we currently have.
4.965.
Yeah, 4.965 currently have. Everybody's in agreement?
Yeah.
So current millage. So that will be added into the resolution that you all were presented this morning, and the agenda meeting has a blank in it, so we will put that number in that blank, and that's what will be voted on Monday.
Okay, great.
Okay, what do we got here?
Next
Reclaim water, huh?
packet, Exhibit G, reclaim water. The exhibit on the top is just the budget that I came up with, leaving no rate changes. The reclaim water fund's generating about $250,000 a year in fees. And down below, you see, as it's set up, there's a line down there called contingencies and reserves, $93,705. That's basically a surplus. We're bringing in more revenue than we are expenditures, which has typically been the case for reclaimed water. The exception would be in the years when you have capital expenditures like you see in 2023, that $278,000 that to replace that reclaimed water line, I think, on the bridge. Still haven't paid that out, so I'm anticipating by the end of this fiscal year, but if not, that'll roll forward, and that would be the only thing that would put us into a reverse situation where we're not bringing in money. But
No appropriated fund balance you're showing for 2024 either, because of the surplus.
Right. Yeah, because basically an appropriated fund balance basically says, hey, you need to take this out of your savings.
Right now, we're good when it comes to reclaimed water.
Where's that interest coming from?
Well,
All right.
Yeah.
last month it was at 5.25% versus in previous years when we've been making
One.
0.5 in some accounts, 0.25%, quarter percent. So it's just gone like this the last 6, 7, 8 months. And what I did to come up with that budget, I looked at bank balances, and I think basically I took an average of 3.5%. we're making 5.25 now, but I don't know if that'll hold out. I expect it to kind of come back down a little bit. But basically what I did for these two funds is I took the last 4 months' interest and annualized it because we have, 5.25, but at one point we had 4.5. So I'm averaging it back down a little bit by doing that, but that's where those numbers came from.
Okay.
And we're gonna beat those interest numbers that I budgeted last year. So those are low in the budget, we're gonna beat those. But what I did do is reclaim water. The biggest expenditure that we have is for the water. And last year, those fees went up 23.8%. We did not do a rate increase, and they are going up 15% this year. So I would kind of, the next page kind of looks at where I would recommend if we did a rate increase. G1, yeah, that 11% is what I would recommend for a rate increase, to try to recoup those costs. And basically, over the 2 years, the increased cost is about $27,948. Basically, I'm just dividing that into my expected revenue based on what I actually projected it to be, which was $252,917, and it came to 11.05%. So I said, basically, if you want to try to be recouping those costs, I would suggest an 11% increase.
Before it starts hitting us.
That
in the
really
coming
doesn't
years.
amount to much, though, individually,
Um,
right? I mean, I think it went from $8 to $9.40 or something. So I mean, when you look at 11% seems high, but dollar-wise, it's really not.
What it is right now, it's $924 per month.
Yeah,
It would go to $1025 per month.
give you $1.
Yeah, for residential. Now, commercial is based on per pervious acre. Right now, that's $264 per pervious acre. That would go to $293 per pervious acre. And it's hard to, you got it, property's different. I mean, what, we got half acre plots, I don't know, not even that, quarter acre.
We didn't raise it last year.
No.
We didn't raise it last year,
Yeah,
so
you
that's why I
probably
brought
need
it
to.
up.
That was 20-some% last year, wasn't it?
23.8% it
Yeah, so-
went up, yeah.
Yeah.
And they've given us a schedule going forward, it's 15% this year.
Water, though.
we're up.
I love it.
And if I,
love reclaimed water.
Yeah.
last year, I recommended an 8%, I think it was 8.3% increase. What I would, when we talked, I mentioned it, but we said, it's a tough year, let's skip a year, is what we did. But I would have done 8%, so at the next exhibit, I gave you just a lower 8%, and you can see, basically the effect you're looking at is the reserves are gonna go up, a little bit better compared to we run the 11%. If you go down, it's gonna go down.
Do it.
Yeah, I say it's better to match the percent we're going up. The 11% sounds good.
Since you didn't do it last year.
Yeah, it's basically coming, last year 5.2%, and this year 5.3% is what's happening there. So you're really doing 2 years worth.
Are we good?
We're good on reclaimed water. The next packet is the sewer fund. Now, we don't have a real number yet for the sewer processing fee increase. They told me to use 5%. If you look at that second schedule, that exhibit F1, looks like this, your second page there. I just kind of give you a history of the of the increases in the fees. Last year, it was 8.28%. We did not do an adjustment last year. The year before, it was 10.65. The year before that, it was 11.84. And so when they tell me 5%, I'm like, I think they tell me that every year, but I'm kind of reluctant that it'll be 5%.
Well, we haven't raised this in a few years, though.
We have,
When's the last time we raised this?
We did it
We
last
did
time
it
I was here.
22, 21?
last increase was 22, we did a 12% increase. And then in 21, we did a 5%. And then before that, it had kind of been years, so we hadn't really done a whole lot. So we just kind of started in 21 to try to do some catching up on
Looking
those
at
things.
your sheets here, we're still having to pull money out of the fund
Yes.
balance. We shouldn't have to do that with these things, they should be paying for themselves. So what do you, you got a 10% here, I see that we still got to pull 98,000 out of the fund balance.
Yeah, I recommended the 10%. One thing, your budget is pretty much done on a cash basis. And your observation is 100% correct. I'd like that to be break even. It's a cash basis. A couple things to just kind of watch on here is you got slip line repairs, we budget 125. You got sewer additions down there, 155. Those are capital. And when you do the accounting, the actual GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, what happens is those go on your balance sheet as assets and then you depreciate those. So you almost have to back those out of the total to look at an operating and then put depreciation in. So
You're thinking 10?
yeah, sewer 2022. Actually have if you look at it from the accounting perspective, we actually had a 59,000 profit, so. But in 2021, we had a loss of 27,000, so I was looking at the 10%, as an increase. I gave you a couple options, like the 8% just because, the 8.28 just because that was last year's rate, but I was recommending 10 though, basically. Like on F3, that's 8.28% if you just wanted to be kinder. It's closer to.
Well, what's the difference in what somebody would pay for the 10%? Do you have that? What's the increase, commercial and residential would have to pay? They look at. How much was their bill?
Of our sewers when they were.
Exhibit F5. We're staying, let me explain this sheet. Gerald was trying to get the new rates. We have them for Gulfport, we got them for Pinellas County. The areas that are blue, those are last year's rates. But if you look at our 10% increase, city, we're still below any of those listed down below. And we haven't even updated Treasure Island or St. Pete, that beach. I would think those. Yeah, so we're by no means,
What kind of percentage would we need to not have anything coming out of the fund balance? 12? So they should be paying for itself, and then we'd only have to do a normal increase each year and not have to,
I can look at that. I didn't run the numbers.
let's look at the difference between the 8 and the 10.
Right.
That's where I come up with the 12, but,
Not very much.
Yeah, we brought it down quite a bit, so.
looking like a
yeah.
$2.50.
Last year I had a 14% on
$2
here, and I
increase.
don't know why I did it. I didn't look at why, but that might very well be to try to knock that down. So I can come back and try to, and get a number for that.
We didn't make any increase last year, right? We didn't even inch it up a little bit? No?
So it was
See what happens.
a really rough year
That's
last
what,
year.
yeah, really.
This year, everybody's having to play catch up.
You know, I love the sewer.
Yeah.
There's a T-shirt.
I'm getting a t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, let's,
I
Why
love
don't
when
we-
it works.
we want to know what the percentage is, but I'm thinking we're all thinking the same thing, and to make sure we got a zero fund, appropriated fund balance.
10%, that's what you're saying.
So, well, no, if
10
it's
won't
11,
do
it might
it.
be
Oh,
12.
no, it's gonna have to go up maybe to
Well, right now, we're having to take 98,000 out of the fund balance to cover the deficit. We need to,
Was there a
Make that
reason
zero
that
out.
you didn't do it last year?
economy,
Yeah, just
it
everything.
was rough on everybody.
The economy.
With
we
this all
raised-
last year, we
raised
play
the
catch
mill.
up this year, you know, which is, it's good and bad. It's good for last year. This year, it makes it a little worse. So, sometimes it's
Yeah.
easier just to do the increase every year and
And
keep up.
inch it
I'm
up.
just surprised at how much lower ours is than everybody else around us. I mean,
I know.
Everybody's got different formulas. I mean, our formulas have been this way for the 20 years I've been here. I don't know. But yeah, you can see that we're.
yeah, well, even,
I mean,
even,
you're-
even with the
We're
increase, we
losing
would
money,
need
and
to
then they're
eliminate
obviously
taking out
making
of the
money.
fund balance. We should.
Unless their formulas are so
Yeah.
radically
If you
different.
look at South Pasadena, somebody's paying $25 for 2,500 gallons. Whereas in Treasure Island, they're paying 48. St. Pete Beach, 38. Gulfport, 34, 39. Not that I want to be that high for anybody, but we need to keep up so we're not having to take money out of fund balance to cover it. So let's just bring that up to a zero. Let us know what that percentage is, just for knowledge, and let's make that happen.
You think it's above 14?
Not based on the comparison here.
No,
I mean.
I don't think so.
10%, Yeah.
Probably 12.
You don't think it will be 14? Okay.
No. Second.
But that would be like a $5 a month increase if it was 14.
Yeah, I
So,
think we need to do
I
it.
think, I could be wrong there too. I guess it's.
Okay, do we want to, I can email you that rate, I don't know, or do we want to have another meeting?
I think
or-
we just want to know what it is, but we want it to happen. That the consensus
Yeah,
we
I'm
got.
okay
Do
with
we-
that.
We're not gonna,
Do we
we
want
want you to,
to,
we want you to bring it to a zero fund balance.
do we want to
whatever that
wait
is.
for their actual increase to come in for this year?
Well, that would make a
think-
difference on the fund balance. So if you can wait for that and then make that change.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I'll let you all know what it is now,
Now.
based on that 5%.
Then what actual is
And
later.
then we'll see, I think
It might come in a little less.
I think it might come in
More.
higher, is what I think.
I think they're gonna slay us.
They have engineers come in, I think there's a meeting in July, where they get together with the engineers and they'll give us a better number, but it won't be approved until September, but I think they'll give us a real number probably in July somewhere.
But they'll add in that engineer cost too, so.
Gotta pay the engineer.
Okay. Can do. And other than that, I think that's all I have. Just as, I put the balance sheets on here, like in the sewer fund there toward the back. You can kind of see where our money is, but at September of '22, we had about $1,956,000 in the sewer. Reclaimed is about the same. We're about at that 2 million mark as far as cash and investments. We do have that 278,000 to come out of reclaim. That'll bring us down to $1.7 million something. So that's about where we're sitting with those funds. We're just, they kind of.
Good.
Looking at F7A on the investments, most of them are zero gain or loss, simply because we simply don't have them anymore. Well, they just doesn't show up.
Where is that? I'm sorry.
F7A,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of investments. A lot of zeros there.
Yeah, we don't have those. Yeah,
Don't have those anymore.
we don't.
Left over.
Yeah, like Florida Safe, when the economy was good, they would go out and buy different bonds, and you could get into it with a group of other cities, and they had different maturities, and so I set up an account for all the different, and they quit doing it during COVID, and they're just now starting to fire back up on it, but, the Florida Safe account is similar to the SBA, it's earning about the same right now, it's local government investment pool, so, state board's earning good.
So they're just all still in the system, they're just,
Yeah, we just don't take them out.
history, yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of little things on these statements that we're still learning on